This is the story of the Iran election crisis as seen through Twitter in June of 2009 through the microblogging platform where posters or microbloggers have 140 characters to work with. It's in particular an exercise in de-banalizing Twitter. In a study that was carried out by a market research firm in the United States called Peer Analytics in August of 2009, they found that 40% of all tweets are babble. In fact, they found that most tweets are anything but substantive. Something like 40% was just babble, another almost 40% was just conversation, other small percentages were self-promotion and spam. And what I'm interested in here is this other percentage, this 8.7% of having pass-along value. Now, from the beginning of the Iran election crisis, Twitter has played a role. In fact, it was called the Twitter Revolution. Now, what we're interested in here is whether we can capture that small percentage of pass-along valued tweets, that 8.7% in that particular study, and in fact turn Twitter into a storytelling machine, into a machine that can account for what is happening on the ground as well as what is happening at the same time in social media. So how can we repurpose Twitter into such a machine? Now, at the beginning, around June the 10th, tweeters found that the Iran election hashtag, so hashtag Iran election, was of quite some value. You see here the results of a search for it and the tweets from the various contributors telling what is happening or having conversation or telling about demonstrations, reactions to demonstrations. So what we did is we captured all of these tweets with the Iran election hashtag between the 10th of June 2009 and the 30th of June, and we archived them. We created a collection. Now you see what the collection looks like and a series of means by which you can analyze them. And you also see who is tweeting. Some of the images of the tweeters are missing, which is quite normal for internet archiving generally. Now the collection is quite large. We have approximately 650,000 tweets. You'll notice also in the data set that for the Iran election hashtag, most of the tweets are in fact in English. So we have an English speaking space here. And you see also that there are quite a few number of unique users, something like 100,000. So in order to capture the substance of the Twitter space, we decided to filter it and take out the top retweets, those that have pass-along value per day. And we did something else. We organized them not in the reverse chronological order that Twitter uses, but we put them in chronological order, starting from the 10th of June all the way up until the 30th of June. You see here the top three stories or tweets per day, starting with the run-up to the elections, where there's a question of whether there'll be a Mousavi effect, the great expectations of change in Iran, to the actual election day on the 12th of June, to the question the next day of websites being down, SMS being down, Facebook being filtered, Mousavi under house arrest. You see a message from Mousavi himself. You see the protests. You see accounts of police using pepper spray. You see the heat of the moment. You see, in some sense, the ground. What we subsequently did is we filtered out sub-narratives in an editorial process. One in particular on censorship, starting with the notice June the 12th that SMS isn't working, then that Musavi's website and Facebook are down, and they're asking the question of whether Twitter would be next, and yes, on the 13th of June, they've blocked Twitter with 7 exclamation points, followed by oh my with another 7 exclamation points. Subsequently, you see the reaction in the space and other tweeters making available proxies where you can circumvent the censorship. Also calls for hacking of websites. And then around the 17th of June and the 18th of June, you see that the solidarity action amongst the tweeters for everyone to change their location to Tehran so that the authorities can't follow who's tweeting on the ground. More calls for hacking or bringing down websites. Then you see around the 30th of June this sub-story of violence. You hear about the ambulances, you hear about the clashes in the streets, you hear about the Bazij, the militia who is connected with the government. You see stories of government operatives. You also see at the same time instructions of how to install various means so that you, as a tweeter, can't be traced. Iranelection RT tells the story of what is happening on the ground in Iran and in online media. Musavi holds the press conference. The voter turnout is 80%. SMS is down, Facebook is blocked, so is Musavi's website, and then finally Twitter itself. You hear stories of Musavi being put under house arrest, that he has declared that he is prepared for martyrdom. Neda is dead. There's a riot in the square. There's first aid information available. And then you hear that Bon Jovi sings Stand By Me in support in Farsi. It concludes with Light a Candle for the people of Iran.
وقتی که شب میاد با همه غمهاش ای یاور ای هم فریاد با من باش دست به دست هم زدن تو و من هم وطن درد تو درد من با من باش So darling, darling, stand by me. Whoa, stand by me. Whoa, stand now. Stand by me. If the sky that we look upon should tumble and fall, all the mountains should crumble to the sea. I won't cry, I won't cry, no I won't shed a tear, just as long as you stand by me.